It's very difficult to package a mid-sized EV so effectively that up to 7 people can sit inside it. But Mercedes has pulled off that feat with this car, the EQB, which usefully broadens its electric vehicle lineup. It's based, of course, on the combustion engine GLB crossover and shares much of that car's premium appeal.
The EQB sprints away from rest pretty quickly, despite tipping the scales at around 2.2 tonnes, a legacy of the fact that Mercedes makes this model run on an MFA2 platform originally designed for combustion models. That being the case, you might have expected the brand to have countered that extra bulk by fitting a more powerful propulsion system, but if anything, the opposite is true here. From launch, this EQB was only available in twin-motor 4MATIC all-wheel drive form, and if you cast a glance around the segment, you'll find that most rivals believe around 300 horsepower is necessary to properly propel a four-wheel drive EV in this class. Well, to approach that with this Mercedes, you have to stretch to the rather pricey top 350 version we're trying here, which offers 292 horsepower. The EQB 300 model that more customers are likely to choose has only 228 horsepower. This model's close relative, the EQA, sells best in front-driven 190 horsepower 250 form, but from the launch of the EQB, the brand wouldn't tell us whether this car would also be offered with that more affordable power plant. Still, you won't be choosing an EQB as an autobahn burner, and if you did, the burning in question would primarily be through this model's rather restricted driving range. WLTP rated for these two 4MATIC variants at a best of 257 miles, in a class where better versions of comparably priced rivals regularly deliver figures well over the 300-mile mark. Mercedes says it's developed an EQB variant capable of a 500-kilometre or 310-mile range, but that will only match, and in some cases still not equal, the current class standard. Whatever variant of this model you choose, you'll find it easy to drive, and particularly in its element around town, where you'll appreciate the light steering and the compact 11.4 metre turning circle you might need for getting into those tight charging bays. With a rapid charging supply, the 100 kilowatt DC onboard charger will allow the battery to replenish itself from 10 to 80% in 37 minutes. More commonly, you'll be powering up from something like a 7.4 kilowatt wall box, charging from which to 100% takes 10 hours and 45 minutes. Beyond the city limits, the EQB reveals itself as a pleasant, supple, and very refined high-speed cruiser. In that respect, at least, it's recognisably a Mercedes. The EQ brand is supposed to stand for progressive luxury, and we're told that this EQB interprets this mantra in an edgy and characterful way. That's certainly what seems to be served up here at the side, where changes over a combustion GLB are limited to differently styled alloy wheels, which are between 18 and 20 inches in size. We've got 19 inches here. As with the GLB, key styling touches include particularly short front and rear overhangs. Plus, there's the way that the lower window line kinks up here at the base of the C-pillar. Mercedes, though, wants to position this EQB slightly differently from its combustion stablemate, and the easiest way of doing that without incurring expensive retooling costs was to restyle the front and rear ends. The frontal treatment shares the combustion model's clamshell bonnet, but looks a sleek step away from the GLB's rather bluff visage, with a horizontal fibre optic strip connecting the daytime running lights of the blue-tinged full LED headlamps. The rear looks like it does on every other EQ series Mercedes design, with LED tail lamps merging seamlessly into a tapered LED light strip that flows above the brand badge and adds a sense of width. OK, time to check out cabin design, usually a strong point with smaller Mercedes models. That tall roofline allows for a notably raised hip point, which for older owners will ease getting in and out. And at the wheel, well, Mercedes didn't really need to redesign the GLB's cabin for this car, and it hasn't. Not at first glance, anyway. Delve into different display options available across the usual glitzy screen fest common to all small models from the marque these days, and you'll find some EV-specific stuff, but otherwise everything's just as it would be in a GLB, which means you sit quite high, and the cabin's dominated by the premier size of widescreen layout from the brand's cabin portfolio for smaller models, which sees a colourful 10-inch centre dash infotainment display paired with an instrument binnacle screen of the same size. There are plenty of ways to interact with this advanced MBUX, or Mercedes-Benz User Experience, setup touchscreen, voice control and various touchpads. And of course, as ever in a Mercedes, you're surrounded by premium touches like these intricately fashioned double-stitched door cards and these circular silver jet engine style vents which decorate the dash and are an integral part of the classy ambient lighting system that brings the interior alive at night. Luxury downsizers will love it all. Time to take a seat in the second row. Now this is an area where this EQB can't simply replicate what's on offer with its GLB showroom stablemate. As mentioned earlier, a huge, great half-a-ton 420-volt battery is, after all, positioned directly beneath the rear bench and double-stacked under the back seat cushions. This is a design feature you might well guess without actually knowing about it. So significant is the rise in floor height necessary to accommodate all those lithium-ion cells. The result is a bench base positioned much closer to the floor than you might be used to, which means your knees end up closer to your chest than they would usually be, though to be fair, this is an issue you'll only really be bothered by on longer trips. Headroom, measured at 840mm, the same as a GLB, should be fine for taller folk, though there's a slight compromise to make if this lovely twin-paned panoramic glass roof has been fitted. This EQB has a bench that can be slid back and forth over a range of 140mm, 90mm to the front and 50mm to the rear, in its rearmost setting, offering up to 967mm of leg space, enough for even 6-footers to get comfortable. The back rests recline too through 8 stages. What about the third row seating? Well, it's optional on the continent, but EQB sold in our market have to have it. Mind you, we can't really see why you wouldn't want these extra rearmost chairs. Getting to them requires a certain degree of athleticism that'll probably be beyond Granny on her Sunday trip to the garden centre. That's because you have to step up, and once you pull the second row backrest out of the way via this easy entry seat shoulder catch, the aperture that opens up for third row access is as narrow as it usually is with SUVs in this segment. Third row legroom is as restricted as it usually is with 7-seaters of this size too. As usual with a 7-seat SUV, you rather sit with your knees up towards your stomach, and headroom is at something of a premium. In fact, Mercedes says it isn't safe for someone over 1.65 metres in height, just under 5'6" to be sat back here at all. But that won't matter much to most owners who'll only really want these rearmost pews for children. If that's the case for you, you'll be pleased to find that Mercedes hasn't forgotten to fit ISOFIX child seat fastening points back here, a surprisingly rare thing to find in the third row of mid-size 7-seaters. Finally, let's take a look in the boot. The luggage area here at the back is accessed via a standard EasyPack powered tailgate. As in any ordinary 7-seat GLB, there's very little space to play with if all 3 rows are in use. And it's even worse with an EQB because, due to the lack of that frunk underbonnet space we just mentioned, the charging lead bags have to sit here. It all means that with the third row upright, you'll be limited to carrying a few shopping bags and not a lot else. Most of the time, of course, you're going to be travelling with these rearmost chairs folded into the floor. A simple action activated by pulling on these red straps. That'll improve cargo capacity to a maximum of 465 litres. If you're able to flatten the second row in this EQB, you can free up as much as 1,710 litres. We feel much more convinced by this EQB than we did by its EQA stablemate, mainly because this more versatile design has a unique selling point denied not only to the EQA but to most other mid-sized EVs out there: 7 seats. So, larger families who lack a lottery win and don't want a converted van can now join the electric vehicle revolution. This is the best affordable EV Mercedes makes, and that makes it a difficult car to ignore.